Discover the hidden teachings of Jesus that reveal 7 life-changing ways to awaken your pineal gland. The sign outside the diner flickered, its neon glow casting a warm light against the gray morning sky. Emma stood at the grill, cracking eggs and flipping pancakes. She leaned into the rhythm of her routine, the sizzle of bacon a comfort amid the chaos of life. Since her husband's accident, every morning was both a battle and a blessing. The coffee pot hissed, spilling rich brown liquid into chipped mugs. Each pour felt like a small act of defiance against the weight weighing heavily on her heart. She forced a smile at the regulars who shuffled in, exchanging glances that lingered a moment too long. Everyone knew, everyone cared. When she received a small note tucked under her tip jar, her heart ached. "You're stronger than you think, Emma," it read. There were tears in her eyes. She missed her husband fiercely. He had promised her the world. Now, she was left with nothing but memories and 2 children, Jake and Lily, to care for. Life demanded everything from her, yet each struggle served as a reminder of his absence. Just as the rain began to patter against the diner windows, an elderly man shuffled in. His worn cap perched atop his head. Mr. Johnson, a veteran with stories that seemed to echo through time. He took a corner booth and smiled as Emma brought him his usual black coffee and toasted bread slathered with butter. Their conversations flowed from the mundane to the profound, often veering into thoughts about resilience, the hidden teachings of Jesus, and the awakening of the inner self. "Emma," he said one rainy afternoon, "life teaches us through the storms. What if there's a truth waiting for you in the chaos?" His words struck a chord, stirring something within her. But every philosophical idea trembled against the backdrop of her gritty reality. Could her faith guide her, or was she destined to be crushed by circumstance? On top of everything, Jake started acting out, his teenage rebellion simmering just beneath the surface. He spoke of quick cash, wild ideas that made Emma's chest tighten with worry. "I'm just trying to help, Mom," he argued. His frustration echoed in the diner's corners. She felt the pull of temptation she couldn't afford, as she struggled to steer him toward hard work and integrity. Yet, all the while, whispers of doubt crept into her mind, nagging at her self-worth. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." That day changed everything. A sudden storm raged beyond the diner's walls, a whirling tempest of chaos. The power flickered and dimmed. Emma felt it in her bones. Something monumental was about to happen. Patrons gathered, their faces drawn in worry, their spirits entwined with hers. In this moment, she recognized the power of community, the unspoken bond that held them together during trials. As she looked around at the familiar faces drawn close by the storm, she felt the words of Mr. Johnson resonate deep within her. "Embrace the transformation," he had said. Just as she gathered her thoughts to speak the truth of her heart, a deafening crash erupted outside, shaking the very foundation of their gathering. The walls pulsed with uncertainty, leaving Emma standing at the threshold of revelation. Could she stand tall and claim her role as both a mother and a community pillar in the face of the unknown? The diner buzzed with anticipation, and just as she began to find her voice, the air crackled with urgency. A moment of stillness settled in, leaving everyone breathless, uncertain of what would come next. The diner was enveloped in a heavy silence, each heartbeat palpable against the backdrop of the storm. Emma took a deep breath, feeling the weight of expectation pressing down on her shoulders. Faces were turned toward her, eyes wide, looking for reassurance, hope, even a glimmer of strength. She opened her mouth, but her voice was lost in the roar of thunder crashing outside. Outside the diner's windows, the storm was an unrelenting force. Sheets of rain blurred the world, transforming the peaceful neighborhood into a chaotic swirl of chaos. Emma's heart raced, caught in a storm of her own emotions. She wanted to reassure everyone, but how could she do that when uncertainty twisted inside her? In that moment, Jake, her teenage son, burst through the door, drenched to the bone, his face stormy with distress. "Mom!" he shouted over the tumult. "You need to see this." His urgency pulled her focus, and she could see the fear etched into his features. He was never one to display such emotion openly. "What is it, Jake?" she asked, her voice firm, though her heart trembled. "There's a wreck down the road. A car flipped over. People are trapped inside." He ran a hand through his wet hair, his eyes reflecting panic and urgency. "We need to help." Emma felt her chest tighten. It was a moment, a decision to be made, a chance to step into the role of action and community. "We can't just leave," she began, but something in his expression silenced her. It was as if the storm outside had amplified the urgency within him. "Mom, you taught us to care for others. This is our chance." His voice cracked but held a strong plea. As she looked around the diner, at the people she had shared laughter and tears with, something shifted inside her. The fear in Jake's voice resonated. She saw Mr. Johnson nodding, his weathered face urging her to take the plunge. The patrons began to murmur among themselves, conversations turning from anxious chatter into focused determination. "All right," she said, feeling the resolve swell. "Let us get together." "Who's in?" Hands shot up. The waitress, an elderly couple, even the quiet man who always sat alone. There was a charge in the air, an understanding that they were all in this together. Emma rallied them, and they quickly organized a plan, forming in whispers and nods. As they headed outside, the rain soaked their clothes, but it didn't dampen their spirits. Emma felt energy radiate from the group. She had been afraid of the storm's power, but now she embraced it. Together, they rushed down the street, their lives intertwined by a shared purpose. Emma moved ahead, Jake at her side. It felt like a rebirth, each step a commitment to act, to face adversity with love and unity. They reached the site of the accident, jaws dropping at the sight. A small crowd had gathered, the smell of spilled gasoline mixing with the rain-soaked earth. Emma looked at her son, fear punctuating their shared understanding this was real. They had a chance to make a difference. As they converged around the wrecked car, Emma felt the enormity of the moment settle over her once more. Would they find the strength needed to navigate this chaos, to heal not just their own wounds but to lighten the burden on others? With her heart pounding and hope flickering, she stepped forward. But just then, a figure emerged from the rain, his face shadowed by uncertainty. Emma squinted, heart racing again for a different reason. Who was he? And was this stranger about to change everything once more? The stranger moved cautiously through the rain, his silhouette becoming clearer with each step. Emma's heart raced, not just from the urgency of the situation, but also from a nagging curiosity. Who was he and what did he want? The crowd shifted a bit, murmurs filtering through the air as uncertainty darkened the already ominous atmosphere. "Hey!" Jake yelled, stepping slightly in front of his mother, protectively. "What are you doing here?" The man raised his hands, palms outward in a gesture of peace. His clothes clung to him, soaked and muddied, just like the rest of them, but his eyes carried a sharp intensity. "I saw the accident from my place down the street," he panted, an air of desperation weaving through his voice. "I might be able to help." Emma glanced back at the wrecked car. The rain was hammering down harder, and time was slipping away. "What do you mean? Are you a doctor?" "No, but I've been in situations like this before, emergencies. I can guide you," he replied, and with that, a flicker of hope sparked inside Emma. She'd spent her life caring for others. She knew how to lead, but this was different. "All right," she said, her voice firm but ringing with an edge of uncertainty. What should we do?" "First, let us assess the situation," he instructed, stepping forward toward the crowd that had gathered around the wreck. "We need to make sure everyone is safe. If anyone's injured, we don't want to move them until we know what we're dealing with." Nervousness buzzed through Emma as she and Jake followed closely behind. The suggestion of mandatory caution felt right, but it also felt like precious seconds were being wasted. She could see the shape of the car, crumpled and mangled, its metal frame bent in a way that made each breath feel heavy. "Let us clear a path," the stranger gestured, and people sprang into action, moving back slightly to give him space. He took a deep breath as he approached the vehicle, then turned back to Emma. "Can you see if anyone else inside?" Shaking, Emma leaned toward the car, peering through the shattered windows. "Can't see. Wait, I think there's someone there." Her heart skipped a beat, the fear mounting as she began to feel the gravity of the situation. "Get the others. We need to pry the doors open," the man shouted, urgency lacing his voice. Emma turned to see the diner patrons springing into action, some pulling at metal debris, while others called 911, trying to maintain as much calm as they could. "What's your name?" she managed to ask him. "Ethan," he replied, hastily working on the door while glancing at her, determination shining through the rain-soaked fear. "Their lives, they might depend on us," she replied softly, realization flooding over her. This could change everything, not just for the stranded victims but for everyone standing with her, uniting them in a purpose greater than mere survival. In that moment, she realized that amidst the chaos, there was an unexpected lesson taking shape, a lesson not only about bravery but about community, resilience, and what it truly meant to care for one another. As clattering metal resonated through the storm, they managed to pry the door ajar with collective strength. The muffled groans from the inside were chilling, each sound piercing through the deafening rain. "Help is on the way. Stay with us," Emma shouted, feeling the ice in the pit of her stomach churn as she caught a glimpse of someone in the seat. Just then, Ethan's eyes locked onto hers. "We need to get them out now. Can you reach in?" Emma's breath caught in her throat, panic surging through her. Could she do what was necessary? Would she find the strength inside herself to take that next step? She nodded, trembling at the precipice of the unknown. As she leaned into the wreckage, everything blurred: the rain, the sounds around her, the weight of the moment heavy in the air. What awaited her inside could change everything, not just for the trapped souls, but for her own heart and spirit. But would she be able to rise to the challenge before it was too late? Emma's heart pounded as she drew closer to the jagged edge of the door. The dim interior of the car cloaked her in darkness. It was terrifying and overwhelming, yet adrenaline coursed through her veins, igniting a fierce urgency. Her fingers, trembling but determined, reached into the gap. "Just take a deep breath," Ethan instructed, his voice steady despite the chaos. "Focus on what you can do. Feel for them." She nodded, breathing in the damp, metallic odor that enveloped her. Shivers crawled down her spine, but she pushed past her fear. Inside, she could sense the faint warmth of another body. "I can feel someone," Emma gasped, urgency overtaking her. "Good. There's hope," Ethan shouted, rallying the crowd. "Everyone, listen. We need more hands. If you see an opening, don't hesitate. Work together." As the hail of rain drummed against metal and concrete, community ignited. Strangers, shoulder to shoulder, pulled, prodded, and pried at the wreckage. Amid the noise, Emma's thoughts swirled, their lives swaying in the balance between chaos and hope. "Can you see them?" Ethan pressed, voice tight with anticipation. I think it's a woman. She's unconscious, but still breathing." A wave of relief washed over Emma. She was alive. "Ethan, what do I do next?" Carefully grab her shoulders. "We'll pull together." He positioned himself beside her, ready to support. On 3, the count echoed in her head, a heartbeat of solidarity. 1, 2, 3. With a collective heave, hands gripped the woman's jacket, muscles straining as they worked together to lift her from the wreckage. Just as they began to pull her out, a crack of thunder echoed above, and Emma flinched. She almost lost focus, but Ethan's presence steadied her. "Keep going," he urged, his voice slicing through the storm. The crowd, once an amorphous mass of fear and uncertainty, felt like family, united for a common purpose. Adrenaline fueled Emma, and she couldn't help but shout over the roar of the storm. "You're going to be okay. We've got you." Suddenly, a sharp screech of metal sounded, and the car shifted dangerously. Danger loomed, an immediate risk of total collapse. Panic rippled through the crowd as the stillness of a few moments before vanished. "We need to pull her now," Ethan shouted. Emma's heart raced harder than ever. They had to act. With one last concerted effort, she and Ethan pulled together, muscles trembling with effort and fear. The woman slid from her seat, her body heavy but life-filled. In an instant, a few spectators rushed to help. "We've got her," they cried, their hands reaching to take her from the thrall of darkness. She was pulled free. The crowd erupted into a hopeful murmur. Emma's breath hitched, a mix of joy and disbelief fluttering in her chest. They had done it, she was alive. But just as relief began to wash over her, Emma noticed Ethan, his expression changing as he peered back into the wreck. "There's still someone else, we can't leave yet." "Not now," he said, his voice taut. Emma's heart sank. The weight of the night pressed down on her, uncertainty creeping back into her mind. Was there enough time? Could they truly save everyone trapped inside? "Do you trust me?" Ethan asked, his eyes sharp, yet filled with compassion. "More than anything," Emma replied, determination blazing as she looked back at the wreck. But as she turned to face the storm, the darkness felt deeper than before. The clock was ticking. Would they find the strength to save the next victim before it was too late? Emma's heart thudded with urgency as she scanned the wreckage. Ethan's words echoed in her ears, propelling her forward. "They couldn't stop now, not after coming this far. I can't just stand here," she murmured, her fingers gripping the jagged metal that trapped the other victim. "Let us move," Ethan commanded, his voice a fire in the storm. Together, they exchanged a quick look, a silent agreement. There was no turning back. Without hesitation, they pressed into the chaos of twisted steel. Emma felt the ground tremble under her feet as the storm raged on, nature waging its own war against humanity's efforts. "Just to the right of where I pulled her from," Ethan's voice cut through the din, directing her toward the new point of focus. "Can you feel anything?" Crawling deeper into the wreckage, Emma strained to listen for any hint of life beyond the metallic likelihood of death. The rain turned to a gentle murmur in her ears, replaced by faint groans that transcended the storm. "I think I hear something. It's muffled. But I can feel heat." "Good. We have to get them out." Ethan worked beside her, his determination visceral, muscles straining as they dug further into the debris. Each click of metal scraping against metal sent chills through her body. But she pressed on, fighting against the cold seep of doubt threatening to engulf her. "Where are you?" Emma whispered, desperation creeping into her voice. "Hold on. We're coming." Suddenly, a low voice responded from within the darkness, faint but unmistakably human. "Help please." The police sent an electric jolt through Emma. "There's someone alive," she shouted, turning to the growing crowd. Faces filled with urgency and fear turned toward her, eyes wide with hope. Now they were a team, a breathing organism of determination. People moved quickly, lights flashing, hands reaching. "Over here. We need tools, something to pry this free," Ethan shouted, coordinating the frantic energy of the crowd. Metallic clinks became a cacophony of hope as tools appeared in quick succession. Emma gritted her teeth, pushing against the heavy remains with Ethan by her side, sweat mingling with the rain on their skin. "Are you ready?" he asked, his voice steady even as the storm raged on. "Always," she replied, resolve burning deep within her. On a count of 3, they yanked at a metal shard. It creaked and groaned but ultimately began to give way, the trapped victim's silhouette now coming more into view. The anticipation hung like an unwelcome weight in her chest. "Just a little more," she encouraged, each second extending like an eternity. Finally, the metal gave way, and a surge of adrenaline shot through her. They pulled back with all their might, revealing a young man, battered but breathing. Relief washed over her as she caught his gaze, fear transformed into a glimmer of hope. "You're safe now," she breathed, heart racing. Yet even in that moment of triumph, her mind raced. "Is there anyone else?" she asked Ethan, glancing back toward the wreckage, the darkness still looming large. "We have to check," he urged, his voice laced with urgency. Emma looked toward the crowd, their faces reflecting determination and fear intermingled. "We need everyone's help, let us move." As they prepared to dive back into the wreckage, the rain intensified, creating a curtain of water blurring the boundaries between safety and danger. Emma's pulse quickened as shadows danced within the ruins, and doubt settled deep in her stomach. What if we don't make it in time? She wondered silently, her breath catching in her throat. But as the team closed ranks around her, an unspoken promise surged between them. Together, they could face anything. Would they find others waiting for their help? Or was this the end of their miracle? The darkness seemed to pulse around them as Emma led the charge back into the wreckage. Each step carried her deeper into uncertainty, the shadows whispering tales of despair. The rain splattered against her face, cooling the heat rising from her relentless spirit. Focus, she reminded herself, scanning through the debris with every ounce of determination she possessed. Over here, Ethan's voice cut through the haze, booming with urgency. He was crouching near a twisted beam. "I think I felt something move." Adrenaline surged in Emma's veins at his words. She dropped to her knees beside him, the teeth-rattling sound of metal screeching filling the air as they began to dig again. "Can you hear anything?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper, drowned momentarily by the wind's howl. For a brief moment, silence enveloped them, then faint cries floated to her ears. Emma's heart raced. Yes, keep going." Time blurred as they worked, muscles straining, breaths coming in quick gasps. The team around them seemed to fall away, the world narrowing to just them and the life hanging in the balance. Emma clenched her jaw as fear and hope clashed within her. What if this was all in vain? What if they were too late? "We'll find them," Ethan shouted, as if reading her thoughts. His voice was a lifeline cast into the turbulent waters of her doubt. With each pull, the metallic debris creaked and shifted, as if protesting against their efforts. Emma could feel the warmth radiating from the trapped victims, the flickering flame of life igniting her resolve. "Just a bit more," she urged, her words laced with fierce determination. Finally, with a thunderous groan, they dislodged a heavy piece of wreckage. Dust surged into the air, and for a heartbeat, everything was still. Emma gasped, her hands trembling as sunlight pierced through the angry clouds, illuminating the scene. A small group huddled together, shivering and wide-eyed, trapped but alive. Thank you," one of them cried, tears mixing with the rain. Relief flooded her as she met their frightened eyes. "Stay calm. We're here to help," she assured them, her voice steadier than she felt. She gestured to the crowd, who surged forward, offering eager hands to bring the trapped group to safety. As they were pulled into the open, more desperate voices called out from the ruins. Hope surged anew, igniting the air with energy. "They're still in there," someone shouted, eyes scanning the darkness. Ethan looked at her, his jaw set tight, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. "We have to keep going, Emma. There may still be others. What if we can't save them all?" The question hung between them like a thick fog, heavy with dread. "That can't be our focus," he replied, his gaze fierce, reminding her of the promise they made as a team. "We do what we can. Together." Emma swallowed hard, the weight of leadership heavy on her shoulders. She glanced back at the crowd, their faces ignited by a sense of purpose. "Okay, let us move out. Find more tools. We can't leave anyone behind." As they began to dig again, Emma's heart thumped wildly in her chest, driving her forward. Each breath echoed the weight of their mission. Suddenly, an ear-splitting crack rumbled through the air. The earth trembled beneath them, and she felt a primal fear take hold. A second later, additional debris began to shift ominously, threatening to collapse further. "Run!" Ethan shouted, grabbing her arm and pulling her backward. Before they could escape, the ground gave way beneath them. It was chaos, screams mixed with the roar of the storm, and everything spun wildly out of control. As Emma plunged into darkness, her world fragmented around her. In that split second suspended in air, she couldn't help but wonder if they were indeed losing everything, or if perhaps this was only the beginning of another fight for survival. Would they be found again? Or would the rubble swallow their hopes whole? Everything was a blur of screaming, darkness, and chaos as Emma fell. The ground seemed to swallow her whole, a gaping mouth of despair pulling her down into a void. She squeezed her eyes shut tightly, hoping the next moment wouldn't be the last. Then, she hit something hard. The impact sent a shockwave through her body, knocking the breath out of her lungs. She landed in a small, dark alcove, surrounded by twisted metal and jagged debris. Pain radiated through her side, forcing her to gasp for air. "Emma!" A voice broke through the haze, filled with panic. Ethan's voice sent jolts of adrenaline through her. "Are you okay?" "I think so," she called back, though deep down she couldn't be certain. Her heart pounded, and the throbbing pain made it hard to concentrate. "Where are you?" "I'm right above you. Hold on." Emma pushed against the rubble, trying to stand up. Her hands sank into wet, gritty earth, and she once again felt the weight of their mission pressing down on her. "Get the others. We have to keep digging. Just hold tight," Ethan replied. The urgency in his voice wrapped around her, fueling her determination. As she steadied herself, Emma's thoughts raced. She scanned the darkness, trying to decipher her surroundings. The dull, muffled sounds of the outside world were fading shouts of their team, the relentless storm, all becoming distant. This was not just a fall. It was a separation, and she could already feel hope slipping through her fingers. "Ethan!" She yelled again, a sharp edge of desperation creeping into her voice. "What's happening up there?" "Hang in there." He sounded closer now, grunting as he pushed against the rubble. "We're coming for you." The thought of him fighting against the weight of destruction to reach her gave her strength. She took a deep breath, steadied her heart, and felt around for any sign of a way out. Her fingers brushed against something small and cold. It was a flashlight, cracked but still functional. She clicked it on and the beam cut through the darkness, revealing the wounds of the wreckage. There were shadows, dark, menacing shadows that seemed to pulse as if the wreckage had a life of its own. "Emma, can you see anything?" Ethan's voice was steadier, but she could hear the edge of worry. "Just debris. It's all around me," she replied, trying to sound calmer than she felt. "But I'm fine. We'll get out of this." The faint sound of splintering wood drew her attention. Her pulse quickened as it dawned on her that they needed to act fast before more of the structure collapsed. "Listen," she directed. "We can't wait. Let us just start pulling." "How are you so calm?" Ethan chuckled nervously from above, his voice echoing down through the crevices. "Because I'm not done fighting," she said, clutching the flashlight tighter. Felt like a lifeline. Using what little room she had, Emma began pushing. Each movement sent dust and debris raining down around her, but she kept fighting. Adrenaline coursed through her veins, burning away fear. She could feel Ethan's energy, their shared goal binding them together even when separated by rubble. Suddenly, a heavy thud echoed. The ground beneath Emma trembled again and her heart sank. "Ethan, we need to hurry." "I know. We're almost there." His voice drifted closer, but there was desperation in his tone. Amid the chaos, Emma suddenly heard a faint whimpering, soft, fragile, and vulnerable. It was a sound that tugged at her heartstrings, raising the stakes in an already harrowing situation. Glancing around, she angled the flashlight beam towards where the sound came from. "Hello? Is anyone there?" Emma called, voice trembling with dread. There was silence, then a small, terrified voice answered her back. "Help! Please help!" Emma's heart raced. She had to find them before it was too late. The realization set in. They were not just in a race against time for their own lives. There were others who needed them. "Ethan," she bellowed, "stay close. We're not alone down here." But could they reach the trapped souls before time ran out? Emma's determination hardened. She would fight through every obstacle. Together, they would save whoever was left no matter the cost. As she pressed deeper, she couldn't shake the looming question. What if she couldn't save them all? Emma's gaze drifted back into the darkness, knowing there was still hope buried beneath the rubble. Would it be enough? "Emma, can you hear me?" Ethan shouted again, his voice thrumming with urgency. The faint whimpering echoed back, filling the dark space with an almost palpable tension. "I'm here. Just a little further, someone's trapped," Emma cried, the flashlight beam flickering as she maneuvered around the jagged shards of metal. Each step was punctuated by the sharpness of pain in her side, but it only fueled her determination. She couldn't let fear chase her into the shadows. Rubble crumbled under her hands as she edged deeper into the alcove, listening for any sign of movement. "Stay with me," she encouraged softly, directing her attention to the terrified voice. "What's your name?" "Lily," came the answer, barely above a whisper. I can't move." "Lily, we're gonna get you out. Just hold on tight." Emma's heart swelled with empathy. She felt the weight of the girl's fear slip into her own chest, a sharp reminder of their collective vulnerability. "Ethan, I can hear her. Keep digging." "Almost there." His voice was strained, each word dropping like a stone through the darkness, but it pushed Emma forward. The urge to save Lily made her forget her own pain, fueling her with every push and pull of the wreckage. "Can you tell me where you are?" Emma yelled again, guiding her flashlight toward the space around her. I think I'm under some beams. They're heavy." Lily's voice cracked, but there was a flicker of hope buried beneath the fear. "Please hurry." A surge of determination pulsed through Emma. She edged toward the soft sigh of breath beneath the debris. "Just a little further, Lily. Promise." "Ethan, we need to." Suddenly, the ground shuddered again, sending a barrage of dust tumbling down onto Emma. It felt as if the earth itself was protesting against their efforts, weight bearing down on her fragile body. Emma swallowed hard. "I need to see what I'm doing," she thought, clicking the flashlight brighter despite its frail battery. Her eyes widened as the stronger light revealed the girl's trapped form. A small figure pressed into a pocket of shattered wood and metal. "There. I see her," Emma shouted, hope lacing her voice even as despair clawed at the corners of her mind. "Hold on, Lily. We're coming." "Ethan, we have to move this." "I'm on it," Ethan yelled back, his movements sounding frantic now. The anger and desperation in his voice pushed Emma's heart into overdrive. With renewed resolve, she grabbed a loose, jagged piece of metal, wresting it free with all her strength. In that moment, the world turned into a blur of ferocity and focus. She could feel the sweat trickling down her back as she shoved aside one obstacle after another. "It's too heavy," Lily cried amidst the struggle. I can't breathe. Just a little longer," Emma urged, gritting her teeth as she clawed at another beam, pulling it with all her might. But with each movement the weight felt more oppressive. What if they couldn't save her? She shook off the suffocating doubt, channeling it into her next push. "You hear that, Lily? You're going to be okay. Focus on my voice." Suddenly, a creaking sound ripped through the air, and the ground beneath Emma shifted again. Her heart dropped. "Ethan, we have to hurry." Before the noise exploded into chaos as something massive came crashing down nearby, sending a fresh wave of dust swirling. She froze, gripped by a stark realization. They were running out of time. Then, she felt a tiny hand grip hers, surprisingly firm. "Please, I don't want to die." Emma's heart shattered at Lily's words, mingling fear and desperation into a singular, resounding cry within her. "You're not going to die. Just hold on." The tremors slowed. Breathing heavy, Emma looked at Ethan's determined expression, their eyes locking for a fleeting moment. Together, they fought against despair, guided by the fragile hope that held Lily's life in their hands. Suddenly, they heard a crack, louder than anything they'd heard so far. "We need to hurry," she urged, feeling a surge of urgency as the dust started to settle, the air shifting again. Heavy with anticipation, she thought of all that was left ahead and knew they were not just fighting for a life, but perhaps for their own. "Let us finish this," Ethan shouted, and together they shoved the final beam aside, revealing Lily's terrified face, eyes wide and shining with unshed tears. There was a moment, just a breath, where they all held their breath, suspended in a fragile balance of hope and dread. But time was a relentless wave crashing over them. Would this be enough? "Come on," Emma whispered, taking a deep breath while stretching her hand towards Lily. "Grab my hand, let us get out of here." But as the weight shifted around them, another crack echoed and Emma's heart skipped a beat. Would they go free? Or would the structure claim them all? Emma's heart raced, the world around her shrinking to the space where she and Ethan struggled against the wreckage. Dust hung in the air like a ghost, thick and suffocating. Every breath felt like a gamble. "Lily, can you reach for my hand?" she urged, her voice trembling with the urgency of the moment. Lily's fingers brushed against Emma's, wavering with uncertainty. "So heavy. Just a little more, you can do it," Emma encouraged, feeling the warmth of the girl's small grip. It was enough to fuel her determination, despite her own aching muscles protesting every movement. Ethan's breath came in sharp bursts as he leaned into the rubble, pushing another beam off balance. I got it, he shouted. The frantic energy swirled around them, a mixture of fear and hope melding into something almost tangible. Suddenly, everything stopped. The wood creaked ominously, and a heavy silence fell. Emma's breath caught in her chest. Not now, she thought, panic creeping up her throat. They had come so far. "Lily, hold on." Ethan grunted, straining with effort. They needed to act quickly, feeling the weight of the moment pressing down on her. Emma shot a glance toward Ethan. "On the count of 3, we push together." "Okay, 1, 2, 3. They pushed in unison, adrenaline surging through them. The beam shifted, then began to tilt and finally rolled away with a low groan. "Lily," Emma called out. More dust fell, settling thickly over the girl. In an instant of clarity, Emma could see Lily's scared expression, and for a moment, her own fears faded. "I think I can move," Lily shouted, a new strength in her voice. "Do it, girl," Ethan shouted back, a spark of joy breaking through the urgency. With a heave, Lily wriggled her body, escaping the worst of the rubble. Emma reached down, grabbing the girl's hand firmly. "Pull," Emma urged. "We've got you." Lily let out a short sob of relief as her body shifted free enough for Ethan to help pull her into the open. For a heartbeat, Emma felt elation flood her veins, washing away the fear like rain on dry ground. But then, the structure groaned again, louder this time, as if the earth were indignant. "No!" Emma screamed, pulling Lily tightly against herself. A piece of debris shifted unnaturally above them, and Emma's heart raced once more. "We need to go. Now." Ethan grabbed Lily's other arm, and together they hurried towards the flickering light ahead. But with each step, the ground quaked beneath them, perilously threatening to crumble. Emma couldn't shake the feeling that time was slipping away faster than they could run. "Keep going. Don't look back," Ethan shouted, his voice fierce with determination. They sprinted, the sensation of freedom drawing closer with every frantic step. Emerging into the open, they burst out into the daylight that felt blinding after the darkness. But just as they turned to catch their breath, they heard another deafening roar from behind. Emma's eyes widened. "It's going to collapse. Get down," Ethan shouted, pushing both girls to the ground. The world shook, and a cloud of dust rose behind them, engulfing the area they had just escaped from. For a moment, they lay there, breaths mingled with disbelief and adrenaline. "Is it over?" Lily asked, voice barely a whisper, the fear etched into her small features. Emma opened her mouth to respond, but her heart was still racing. They had escaped, but at what cost? She glanced back at the looming rubble, shadows stretching like fingers over their fragile freedom. Just then, a faint sound pierced the air. A muffled cry she could hardly register. Was it possible someone else was still trapped? Wait, there might be more. Emma turned, her heart pounding once again. "We can't leave." "What? We just got out," Ethan protested, disbelief flooding his tone. "We can't abandon them," Emma insisted, a newfound fire igniting within her. But in an instant, a new challenge loomed ahead, and they stood on the edge of a choice. Would they risk it all again? Would they dig deep once more, knowing the danger that lay ahead? "Emma, we could die," Ethan pleaded, fear dancing in his eyes. But Emma felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. Someone was still in there. The question wasn't just can they go back, but should they? She looked at Lily, then back at Ethan. I don't know the answer, but we can't leave them with that. Uncertainty gripped them, their next move hanging in the balance. What would they choose when faced with the possibility of saving another life? The air hung heavy with tension, still vibrating from the aftermath of the collapse. Emma's heart raced as she clutched Lily tightly, their faces smeared with rain and dirt, the shattered remnants of what once was hung in the balance behind them. But the cries of potential victims echoed in her mind, refusing to fade into silence. The choice loomed over them, as real as the danger of the wreck overhead. Emma, please, Ethan breathed, his eyes wide with concern. We just got out. It's too dangerous. But Emma felt a fierce determination bubbling within her. I can't take that risk, Ethan. Not when we might still save someone. She turned toward the cloud of destruction, the shadows flickering beneath it. There could be more waiting for us. We can't abandon them. Lily, still shivering but steadying herself, added, I want to help too. We can do this together, just like before. Emma nodded slowly at Lily's courage. The girl was still a beacon of hope even in an impossible situation. She felt an unexpected swell of strength emanating from her and locked eyes with Ethan, silently pleading for understanding. Okay, but we need a plan, he said, finally acquiescing but looking resolute. We go in, stay low, and move fast. No hesitation. With determination knitting them closer, they steeled themselves and took a collective breath. They rushed back toward the wreck, the weight of responsibility pulling them forward into uncertainty. As they navigated carefully through the debris, the world around them felt alive with an urgency that simmered beneath the chaos. Dust motes danced in the light, peeking through the broken spots, illuminating their path and amplifying the resolute beat of their hearts. Emma led the way, momentum igniting behind her. Anyone there? Emma shouted, the tremor in her voice betraying her fear. We're coming to help. Silence wrapped around them like a shroud, but then a soft whimper cut through the stillness. Help! The voice was weak and distant, hope and desperation woven together. Right there, Ethan shouted, pointing toward a fissure where a piece of metal had shifted, revealing a glimpse of trapped limbs. Hold on, Emma urged with a confidence she didn't entirely feel. She saw unfamiliar shadows huddled beneath the wreckage. A small group of faces, weary but alive. We're coming for you. Together, they began digging, hands trembling but strong, pulling away any debris and pushing against the twisted metal with newfound vigor. Serenity enveloped them despite the chaos. It was a unity born of purpose. They anchored each other through the weight of despair, securing their fate as a team. Just a little more, Emma yelled, the fire within her igniting each person present. Every grunt and shout melded into a chorus of determination and hope. You're almost free. At last, with a final heave, the last beam fell away, and Emma felt a rush of overwhelming relief as the faces came into view. Huddled together were 4 young teens, fear etched into their features, but a flicker of gratitude immediately igniting in their eyes. Thank you. We thought we'd never get out. Tears pricked at Emma's eyes, happiness mingling with exhaustion. You're going to be all right, she replied, relief flooding through her. Let us get you out. She beckoned the others to help. Members of that diner family, compelled to act in unity, surged forward to assist. As hands reached to pull the teens from the remnants of despair, Emma caught Ethan's eye. We did it, he mouthed, with unshed tears glimmering in the corners of his eyes. But just as jubilation threatened to overcome them completely, a resounding groan echoed from the wreck. The earth shifted once more, and Emma's heart sank. Run, she shouted, grabbing Lily's hand and pulling her close. They scrambled from the shadows of chaos as debris began to give way again. The group found their footing, running toward the blinding light of survival. Just as they burst from the wreckage, a deafening crash resonated behind them. A heavy cloud of dust swallowed everything they just narrowly escaped. But as Emma looked back, she felt only gratitude, not fear. They had faced chaos, each moment steeped in vulnerability, and emerged stronger. "We saved them," she whispered, breathless but filled with purpose. It was a new dawn, not just for those they rescued, but for Emma herself. She had fought against the shadows of doubt, anchored herself in a newfound strength, and discovered the undeniable force of community. In that moment, she caught Jake's eye nearby, warmth spreading across her heart. The bond they shared had deepened in ways she couldn't express. He smiled, a ghost of worry fading. "Mom, you're incredible," he shouted, reaching for her as the crowd erupted with cheers of relief and gratitude in the aftermath of their journey. And as they embraced, Emma felt the weight lift, each layer of grief shedding away into the open light, a transformative freedom rippling through her. Yes, storms would always come, but she had learned to find strength in chaos, to love fiercely, and to stand resilient, come what may. In the heart of the storm, she finally understood. Together, they could weather anything as long as they held on to hope, unity, and the unwavering belief that they were stronger together. So what are you waiting for? Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help others find this inspiration. Comment down below your feelings about this emotional journey. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.